Okay, well, good evening and welcome to the Brevard City Council regular City Council meeting of Monday, January 5th, and our very first council meeting of 2026. And it is so great to see a packed full room of people. I love it, you guys. And I want to welcome everybody that's watching the live stream on their computers. So with that, welcome. I want to introduce everybody that is sitting up here. And folks, the seats in the front are open. Okay, come on up here. No, up. Up there, right in the front. Yep. Good. No point standing. I want to introduce everybody that is up on the dais. On my far right is our city attorney, Mac McKellar. Next to Mac is Councilman Lauren Wise. Normally, sitting next to Lauren would be Councilwoman Pamela Holder, but Councilwoman Holder could not be here tonight. Next is Councilman and Mayor Pro Tem Aaron Baker. Sorry, Aaron.
It's a hard last name. It's pretty difficult.
We have an Aaron Baker and an Aaron Bland, and those names just inevitably get confused in my brain, but I got it right. So, okay, just a little pause. I am Mayor Maureen Kopoloff. On my immediate left is our city clerk, Denise Hodgson. Next to Denise is Councilman Gary Daniel. Next to Gary is Councilman Dean Lytle. And next to Dean is our city manager, Wilson Hooper. Okay, I managed to get everybody correct. And at this point, I am going to ask the Reverend Elizabeth Rolls from St. Philip's Episcopal Church if she would please give the invocation tonight.
Thank you. Well, it's really good to be here, and I have a lot of my congregation here, so we're thinking maybe we'd pass the plate. Just kidding. But at St. Philip's, we did just pass an important historical milestone in our church history. On Christmas Eve, we marked 100 years since the old St. Philip's Episcopal Church burned to the ground. It burned after, the fire happened after the Christmas Eve Eucharist, and in the morning, when the congregation awoke, they had no room at the inn. So something also beautiful also happened that morning, on Christmas morning. A 9-year-old boy named Richard Grimshaw, a distant cousin of Peggy Bridges, he gave his Christmas gift, $5, to the fund to start and to build a new Episcopal church in Brevard. Richard Grimshaw. So we even have record of the treasurer who wrote him a note, and in the note the treasurer said, "You have set an example for the adults in our congregation whose responsibility it will be to build a new church." And so the congregation did follow Richard's example, and amazingly, by August of 1926, they had laid the cornerstone of a new stone church building, the same one we worship in on Main Street. So as we begin another year together as the city of Brevard, my prayer is that, like the forebears of St. Philip's Episcopal Church, that we may move into the future with optimism and with hope. And like Richard Grimshaw, we will give ourselves for a beautiful future. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, honor, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum. All members are present with the exception of Councilmember Holder.
Do I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Holder?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilmember Holder is officially excused. Council, you have the proposed agenda. Are there any modifications to the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Council, you have the December 1st, 2025 organizational meeting minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the December 1st minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. We also have the December 15th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. Council, do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, now we're going to get to part of the, I think, the best part of tonight. We have two great things, two certificates and awards. And first, we are going to give our new police chief, Christy Wenzel, her oath of office. And our clerk, Denise Hodgson, is going to be administering the oath.
Becky will serve as our director and where we will stand.
Why don't we get whoever's holding the Bible, then I've heard it's you.
Bodie, is it right? It's Bodie, okay. Okay, so your mom's gonna put her, you're gonna hold it flat, hold the Bible flat like this. She's gonna put her left hand on the Bible, and she's gonna raise her right hand, okay?
You guys over closer to the mic. There we go.
Okay.
Very good, very good.
All right, you ready? Okay. You ready? Okay. I, Christy Wenzel,
I, Christy Wenzel,
do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers and authorities
and to the constitutional power and authorities
which are or may be established
which are or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend
the Constitution and laws of said state,
the Constitution and laws of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of my office
the duties of my office
as Chief of Police for the City of Brevard,
as Chief of Police for the City of Brevard,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Yes, our sworn police officers have to take a separate statutory oath, so we're going to administer that. You ready? I, Christy Wenzel,
I, Christy Wenzel,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will be alert and vigilant
that I will be alert and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
to enforce the criminal laws of this state,
that I will not be influenced in any matter
that I will not be influenced in any matter
on the account of personal bias or prejudice,
on the account of personal bias or prejudice,
and that I will faithfully and impartially execute
and that I will faithfully and impartially execute
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a law enforcement officer and chief of police,
as a law enforcement officer and chief of police,
according to the best of my skill, abilities, and judgment.
according to the best of my abilities, skill, and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. If you want to sign this one, Christie, sign it, and we'll get it over to you, and then you can send it off.
And Christy, introduce your family members that are here.
Standing here with me, I have my son Bodie, and my daughter Hannah, and sitting in the gallery is my daughter Sherry.
Welcome.
Mayor, I'm hoping we can use this opportunity, since we have several others of our men and women in blue, to have a picture taken with them. So folks, if you wouldn't mind coming up, since we got a lot of you here,
Absolutely. Yeah.
memorialize this occasion. Usually I'd say the tall people have to stand in the back, but they're all tall.
We'll work it out. Just get as close as you can. Maybe a 3/4.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorority squad.
I need to be out doing some crime right now.
Excellent. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, folks.
All right.
All right, police department folks, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
I don't know why everybody decides not to stay for the entire meeting. What's wrong with that?
Probably have a party to go to.
Probably. Go celebrate.
There'll be at least 8 people here.
All right, and now, on to our next proclamation. And I would like to ask the Reverend Elizabeth Rolls to please come up.
The room just shifted.
Now, I would ask the entire congregation to come up, but we would never be able to get everyone up. Wow, I am impressed, Dr. Turner. But as the Reverend mentioned, this is a very, very special year for St. Philip's, and we are just so glad that we are able to recognize that, because our faith community is such an important part of our overall community, and it's a partner with us elected officials in the civil government, that we work together to build our community, to build that strong neighbor, kindness, all of the things that make Brevard so special. And our faith community in St. Philip's is such a big part of that, and we are so appreciative for everything that they give us. With that, we have a special proclamation. City of Brevard, North Carolina, proclamation number 2026, Tax 01, St. Philip's Episcopal Church Cornerstone Centennial. Whereas the cornerstone of St. Philip's Episcopal Church's historic building was laid in 1926, and whereas for over 100 years, St. Philip's Episcopal Church has provided pastoral support, fellowship, and spiritual inspiration to generations of families in Brevard. Whereas the historic church building stands as a testament to the dedication and vision of its early members, and continues to serve as a gathering place for beautiful liturgy, music, and religious activities. Whereas St. Philip's Episcopal Church has demonstrated unwavering commitment to our community through outreach to those in need, and in 2026 will make a gift of 2 camps serving children in our community. Whereas in 2026, St. Philip's Episcopal Church will celebrate this momentous centennial milestone with a year-long series of events, including an evensong liturgy, historical programs, the publication of a book of history, and community gatherings that honor the past while building toward the future. Whereas the church's centennial celebration, including a special service of acknowledgement addressing our tragic history of slavery and hopes for a renewed future, reflects the congregation's commitment to honest reflection, reconciliation, and continued service to all citizens of Brevard. Now, therefore, I, Maureen Koperoff, Mayor of the City of Brevard, do hereby proclaim February 8th, 2026, as St. Philip's Episcopal Church Cornerstone Centennial Day, although you really have the entire year. Just make that clear, so we're starting it right now. In the City of Brevard, and we encourage all citizens to join in celebrating this historic milestone and recognizing the significant contributions of St. Philip's Episcopal Church has made to our community over the past century. So thank you on behalf of the city. And would you like to say anything else? Or would any of your congregation like to say anything?
Just thank you, and you're all invited. You're all invited to participate in all of our wonderful events, and to come to church any Sunday you want.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the invitation.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
And yes, you can leave too. And Doug, you have to stay in the first row. Yeah, you can't leave. All right, where are we? Okay, public comments. Now it looks so empty, you know?
Yeah, no kidding.
Thank goodness Kay and Doug sat in the front. Or I'd really be depressed. Okay. All right, we are moving on to public comment. The public is invited to speak during public comment at this time on any topic unless it is a public hearing item on this agenda. Anyone who wants to speak must register with the city clerk, which is the sign-up sheet. When it is your turn, step to the podium in front of city council. State your name and address clearly. Limit comments to 3 minutes or less and avoid repetition. And I will give you a warning when you have 30 seconds left. Direct comments to the full council, not to an individual council member or to staff. I will call people up in the order in which they signed. Our first speaker is Joellen Rischauer.
Good evening, everyone. I think I've got this right. My name is Joellen Rischauer, and my address is 25 Chipman. I am the co-chair of the Brevard Sustainability Council, or BSC, and I'm reporting on the 2025 activities. So on August 4th, the city passed a resolution 225-46. This resolution endorses the creation and operation of BSC. The resolution confirms the city's recognition and concern about climate change and its evident impact on this region's safety and economic stability. BSC found a partner for financial sponsorship with Brevard Rotary for the acceptance of tax-deductible donations. We do not ask for city funding. BSC found a grant opportunity in Adopt a Drain, a program very successful in Asheville for many years. It's a great way to build awareness of water issues and engender community participation. A regional nonprofit, Riverlink, was eager to write a grant on behalf of Brevard. Riverlink is in the process of applying for funding for this city's grant. In partnership with the local chapter of the Native Plant Society, BSC adopted two 40 feet by 2 feet planting boxes at Silvermont. BSC, or spouses and volunteers from Brevard's high school's Interact Club, donated labor and native plants. BSC will maintain the boxes and seek donations for changeable signage in order to provide education about native plants and pollinators. Sustainability recommendations for family and civic events were compiled in a poster and approved by the city for distribution with community center use applications. Weekly, BSC posts sustainability information on social media. Monthly, BSC members send a submission for the outdoor page column in the Transylvania Times. BSC has added new members over this year. Paige Denzel attends Brevard High School, assists
30 seconds.
assists with social media posts on our Instagram account. She actually spoke before this council with an innovative idea. And BSC's website is maintained by a college student working on a degree in environmental studies. We're just getting started. There's much more to come in 2026, which will be covered by my colleague and co-chair, Dr. Destiny Pettit. Thank you so much for your time and your continued support.
Thank you, Joellen. Our next speaker is Destiny Pettit.
Hello, everyone that's left over. Thank you for being here today. And I am going to be talking about what the Brevard Sustainability Council is looking forward and doing in 2026. You already heard about some of the things that we accomplished in 2025, and we are hoping to move that forward even further in 2026. So I'm just going to go down the list of things that we have on the docket. Right now, we're working with a partnership with Conserving Carolina for doing an Adopt a Stream event on the property along the East Etoy Trail and Lamb Creek, so we can clean up that area. Each one of our members on the Sustainability Council has a project that they're leading. So Jo Ellen, she has been working on plastics in our community. How can we reduce plastics and what that plastic project can look like for our community. We all know about the landfill, so reducing stuff going to the landfill is going to be great for us. One of our members, Bob Agnew, has been doing a lot of things. So he has streamlined the Adopt a Storm Drain project with Riverlink that Jo Ellen mentioned. He's working on a green pledge where residents can actually sign a pledge that has a bunch of sustainability things that they can do in their daily life. Hopefully we're going to get that out this year as well. We're thinking about doing tabling events with that green pledge. He's also working on a Leave the Leaves educational project to encourage people to leave the leaves where they fall, right? Because they're very, very important to leave in their habitat and to keep our habitat sustainable. We have two other members, Reed Wood and Connie Chase, who have been working diligently on a green business pledge that's looking to work with local businesses to identify current sustainability practices that they're already do to help them champion those practices and also encourage them to further their sustainability practices at those local businesses that we love to support. Another member, Christy Lamp, she's been working diligently on a composting program, again, thinking about our landfill, how can we reduce things going to it? So hopefully we're gonna have that later in the spring or summer, teaching our residents how we can actually compost, right? So how can we do that in a sustainable way? Myself, I do a lot of things. I like to do things. Two of my projects that I'm working on with the Brevard Sustainability Council is landfill reduction, specifically with styrofoam. So seeing how we can reduce styrofoam from going to the landfill. So if you hear, we're thinking about plastics, we're thinking about styrofoam, and we're thinking about food waste, right? So how can we do this? Also continuing our gardening with natives, so helping create educational opportunities surrounding those planted
30
boxes at
seconds.
Silvermont. We also have Catherine Poe on our board. She's looking at helping us with sustainable events and thinking about the White Squirrel Fest. What can we present there? And then we have a plethora of things on social media. So if you don't follow us, you should like and subscribe. At Sustain Brevard, sustainbrevard.org. You can find a ton of information about us there. And happy National Bird Day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Destiny. All right, our next speaker is Doug Powell.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members and staff. I'd like to wish you and everyone here tonight a very happy new year. As most of us are already aware, 2026 is a very special year in our nation's history, as we will be celebrating our 250th year of independence from Great Britain. After the first celebration in 1776, 11 years later, representatives from the 13 original states, including North Carolina, settled upon a constitutional republic as our form of government, where the citizenry decided to elect representatives to make decisions on its behalf, provided these decisions were in concert with the consent of the governed and under the authority of their state and national constitutions. This is why we all gathered here tonight and last month for the very joyous and important swearing-in ceremonies right here in this room. And everyone on the dais, either last month or in earlier years, have put their hand on the Bible and in front of your friends, family, and the good people of Transylvania County, swore an oath to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina and the United States of America. The word oath is derived from the word sacramentum and is considered a sacred act, very similar to taking a religious sacrament in church. The public promise our representatives have made is really not to any of us, but actually to God Almighty. Because not only will you be held to account by the electorate who voted you in and can vote you out, but eventually to an even higher authority. As our local representatives, I will assume that all of you treat this oath with the reverence and honor it deserves. However, if any of you cannot name how many articles and amendments there are in the United States Constitution, or you can't name the 5 freedoms contained in the First Amendment, then this is an indicator that there is room for improvement. Independence Day is a mere 179 days away, and this is a very wonderful opportunity on the calendar to upgrade our collective understanding of the Constitution. As a Constitution coach here in Brevard, and as a mentor for other Constitution coaches throughout Western Carolina, I would be happy to help anyone here improve upon their knowledge and understanding of the Constitution and our very special form of government. To get you started, here are your
30
own copies
seconds.
of the Constitution that you can use as workbooks, which you can write in, highlight, and underline. Remember, if we don't know what the document says, it is impossible to fulfill a sacred oath to support, maintain, and defend its principles.
Thank you, Doug.
Already got one.
All right, that was everybody that signed up for public comment. So we are now going to move on to our public hearing. And our public hearing tonight is on the determination of the need for the City of Brevard to exercise the powers of a housing authority. And I believe our senior planner, Emily Brewer, is going to be presenting.
Yes, ma'am. The North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 157, authorizes the creation and operation of local housing authorities to address unsafe, unsanitary, and inadequate housing conditions and to expand the supply of affordable housing. Under this chapter, a city may exercise the powers of a housing authority itself, rather than or in addition to creating a separate authority, by formally adopting a resolution declaring the need for such action and those powers. When a city elects to do so, it may carry out all functions that are granted to a housing authority under that chapter, including acquiring, owning, leasing, rehabilitating, operating housing, entering into agreements with state and federal agencies or private developers, issuing bonds, and undertaking redevelopment or revitalization efforts in areas with substandard housing. This option allows municipalities to integrate those functions into its already existing governance structures and coordinate with the planning department and other appropriate departments. In November of 1968, the Brevard Board of Aldermen adopted a resolution declaring the need for a housing authority to function in Brevard. That language doesn't explicitly state that the authority is granted exclusively to the separate and discrete body, though staff do believe that it was intended to expand those authorities to the city at this time. But in order to clarify, we are recommending that the City Council repeat those steps by formally adopting the resolution that is included in your packet and officially endowing itself with the ability to act as a housing authority. This resolution and any action associated with has no impact on the existing Brevard Housing Authority and their ability to continue their very important work. So this is for public hearing, but we are requesting an action tonight. In your packet, you have the petition that's required for housing authority powers. You will hold the public hearing, and then we are asking that you would adopt the attached resolution to affirm the city's commitment to affordable housing and ability to exercise the powers of a housing authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Council, at this point, we will open the public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. Public hearing. The public is asked to adhere to the following guidelines for the public hearing. Register with the city clerk by printing your name, address, and phone number on the sign-in sheet, which is what I have here. When it is your turn, step to the podium in front of city council, state your name and address clearly. Be concise, avoid repetition, and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. And I will give you a warning when you have 30 seconds left. Direct comments to the full council, not to an individual council member or to staff. This is a time to provide your comments, but not to ask questions. A public hearing is not an appropriate venue for a question and answer session. Designate a spokesperson for large groups, and each person may speak once for a specific public hearing. Right, and we have one individual who has signed up to speak, and that is Mr. Rodney Locks.
Happy New Year, Council. My name is Rodney Locks, and I live at 187 South Rice Street. I'm one of the people who signed the petition, and when I read the resolution, I needed to have it clarified. Some of the things, and Emily, Ms. Brewer, mentioned that you should, it doesn't say that you're different from the Brevard Housing Authority. The Brevard Housing Authority still exists, and you're doing something different. It doesn't say that, it doesn't define what's affordable. And I think you need to define affordable housing. It doesn't say you're not a property manager. It doesn't say that you provide financial incentives. But most of the comments that I have is about what you don't say. It's nice to have you as a housing authority where you can do these things, but you need to clarify what you're not going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Locks. All right, council, that was everyone that signed up for the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. All right. Since we are looking for action tonight on this, I will ask for a motion, and then we'll open it for discussion. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll open it for discussion. Mr. Baker.
Yeah, obviously, we've been doing a lot with housing, and really proud of the efforts we've made so far. Seems like this is mostly a administrative change to be sure that the resolution that was passed all the way back in the 1960s, which is pretty remarkable that the city was already, thinking about housing issues back then. But being sure that with state law changes that we have the appropriate things written down in our resolutions, and so it seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Mr. Wise?
I just want to make sure I understand this more comprehensively. Does this resolution actually place more burden on you guys or staff to kind of move forward with the housing authority, or is it really kind of like a dotting the I, crossing the T's?
Mr. Attorney, would you?
Yeah,
like
I was
do
going to
any of
say,
that?
it's more of a dotting an I and crossing the Ts. We probably have the authority already, based on the 1968 finding by the Brevard Board of Aldermen, that there was a need. We probably already have the authority to do everything we're allowed to do as a, quote, housing authority. This is just a way of ensuring that we don't go beyond our mandate. We're allowed under Chapter 157. Mr. Locke's brought up an excellent point. I'll just point to Chapter 157 of the North Carolina General Statutes, which lays out what we're allowed to do, not allowed to do, what can be done and what cannot be done. It's very specific and very detailed in the definitions section. So I'm not going to bore you by going through the whole thing, Rodney, but it's very detailed. And this is just in the resolution that was passed back in 1968 establishing the Brevard Housing Authority seems to have given authority to whatever organization the city created. One of the organizations that was created was the Brevard Housing Authority. This does nothing to change that. We're simply allowed also to exercise other abilities as a, quote, housing authority under the statute. That's what this authorizes us to do. It's just a way of dotting an I and crossing a T. And so that's why we're asking for you to go ahead and pass the resolution this evening.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Mr. Daniel?
I think anything that moves us further along the road to improving housing in Brevard is a worthy endeavor. So this clarification would help with that, I believe. So thanks.
Mr. Lytle?
And so I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding. So when we say dotting an I and crossing a T, are you saying that we're just essentially sort of codifying what we already do, and to make sure that we've explicitly. And then the second thing I think is as far as the existing housing authority is concerned, it's always good to make sure that we, in my mind, that we're always distinguishing between, that we're not working at cross purposes, whether, it be us or them, or if anyone thinks that we are. So I don't know if there is, I didn't see, but I don't know if there is language that explicitly, states that, we are not, we are not working at cross purposes with existing authority.
There is really no need for that.
Okay.
Because that language is what was used to create the authority to begin with. So it was in the the incorporation documents that were put into effect in 1968 when this whole thing started. They operate quasi-independently of the city of Brevard. This just allows the city of Brevard to exercise some of the Chapter 157 powers and authorities in addition to the Brevard Housing Authority, which is, this doesn't change their mission in the least. And it's not a mission that we want to do or have asked to do. So I can't say that it explicitly says, yeah, we're not taking anything away from Brevard Housing Authority, but there's nothing that takes anything away that's already been given. If that makes you feel any better about that?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we will move on to consent and information. The following items are on the consent agenda. 1, sewer pump station rehabilitation project change order number 1. 2, budget amendment, fire department, grant funds, and sale of trucks. 3, council parks, trails, and recreation committee minutes, October 15th of 2025. Council, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent is approved. All right, moving on to unfinished business. We have the proposed amendment to the official zoning map of the City of Brevard, Pisgah Gateway voluntary rezoning, and our Assistant Planning Director, Aaron Bland, is going to present.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the follow-up to the public hearing held on December 15th. And I won't go through the whole history of this again, but just to remind you that the PGX standards already exist in the UDO, but this just simply not been applied to any parcels of land yet. And so that's what this rezoning would do to the parcels in green that have explicitly opted in and signed consent forms as required by the general statutes. So the one thing I want to point out, the properties along between Brevard Road and Hendersonville Highway, last time I mentioned that the signatures were no longer valid because the property sold. We now have signatures from the current property owners who want to rezone those properties are split zoned, CMX on the highway side and residential in the back. They want to maintain that split zoning, so they consented to the CMX portion that fronts 64 to be rezoned to PGX. So they'll still be split zoned, but part of them will be brought into the PGX. And just as a reminder, the creation of this new zoning district is supported by the Building Brevard Comprehensive Land Use Plan and its future land use map. The purpose, justification found in the Building Brevard Plan centers a lot around the current zoning out there. It's a mishmash of different zoning districts, but most notably, all the area directly around the intersection is zoned downtown mixed use, the same as where we are right now. Since downtown is a lot different from a built environment perspective than this area, it was not the best district for this area, and so that is a key reason why we've proposed coming up with a context-specific district just for this critical crossroads. It acts both as the entryway to town coming down 280 and also the sort of activity hub at the entrance of one of our biggest draws to the area, Pisgah National Forest. And the one of the most important parts about this new district is that it is where the Gateway District specific architectural standards that are currently in the UDO are only applied to PGX, the PGX district. If we want those standards to become reality through new projects in the built environment, we have to zone some of this area the PGX district. Otherwise, those standards won't be applied to any actual property. So the main piece of that is that in the PGX district, you have to choose between either stone masonry vernacular or rustic frame vernacular. Outside that that specific area, you can pick any architectural style. And so the intention with that is to maintain a more natural look, more natural feel with those sorts of materials as opposed to others that might not fit that context as well. Another key provision that would change is that in DMX, you're required to have multi-story buildings. So the requirement for a two-story building out there has been a roadblock to several different proposals. And so again, a more context-sensitive district will alleviate those sorts of concerns. So your options tonight are to grant as presented or with a reduction in either the area or to a more restrictive district or both, or to deny, send back to planning board, or call for additional public hearings. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bland. Do I have a motion regarding the proposed zoning map amendment? Do I have a motion to grant the zoning map amendment as requested?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, we will start with Mr. Wise.
You're really favoring this end of the. I don't really have any questions. We've been kind of dealing with this for nearly a year or longer.
Over a year.
Over a year. So I feel like most of our questions have been answered. I do want to reemphasize that we do want to continue to try to talk to the folks that haven't signed yet. I think that's already.
Yeah, that's our plan, is to keep engaging and try to come with another round of these multiple properties all at once.
We've had a couple of questions. Paul, thanks for your kind of clarifications and helping summarize, because I know it's a complex issue. So I think as long as we can kind of keep getting that public information out about what this is, it's an overwhelmingly positive move, I think.
Mr. Lytle?
Yeah, I don't have too many questions on this. I would just note that we should just make sure that our intent matches what the outcome is, right? And have those checks in place, and to be able to pivot and come up with ways to pivot if we need to, if it's not turning out the way we intend. So it's just a long-term view of, long-term impacts.
Mr. Daniel?
I have no questions or comment.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, just a couple questions. You said that a lot of the properties right around the intersection are zoned currently downtown mixed use. I'm assuming those buildings were built before that was the case, is that?
Correct.
Okay. And you also mentioned the architectural standards that we worked on last year. Is it the case that because those properties that are zoned downtown mixed use, they're currently, they have the architectural standards that we've set for downtown as well?
No, they have they're treated as not being in any of the character areas. So the downtown character area for the architectural standards is not the same as DMX.
Okay.
So it's a specific geographic area just for that purpose. But the gateway architectural standards are applied to PGX.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, those were just some questions that came up as you were talking, and I'll just repeat a couple things that Councilman Wise said, that we're hoping we get some further updates on some other properties to join, and look forward to hearing about that in the coming months.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we will move on to new business. Our first item of new business is the policy regarding vendors on city property. And Emily Brewer is going to present this one also.
Yes, ma'am. This is a planning department initiative to respond to a number of increases of requests that we've had in recent years. We've had an increase in the number of requests for temporary uses, markets, events, and vendors at locations throughout the city. So our initiated amendments are to the UDO for temporary uses, which you all adopted in December, amendments to the Code of Ordinance for special events, which is scheduled to be discussed at the Public Safety Committee, and this new policy for vendors on city property. The policy before you was unanimously recommended by the Finance and HR Committee after having discussed it in September and in November. But I'll go through it in detail. The proposed policy allows vendors with non-motorized push carts that are designed and equipped to sell food, beverages, and other goods directly to consumers at certain locations on public property. The purpose of this policy is to regulate the operation of those non-motorized push carts at the specific locations on city property in order to promote local entrepreneurship, enhance public space use, and ensure safety, accessibility, and cleanliness in our public areas. This policy really only applies to those sites. So it doesn't include anything that's operating as part of a temporary use or a special event. The pushcart vending is limited to those few locations, as I said, including Clemson Plaza, Franklin Pool, the dog park, and the city sports complex. Vendors would be required to submit an application, provide copies of all permits and licenses, provide proof of insurance, and pay any applicable fees. The reservations are limited for 30 consecutive days per location, followed by a 30-day waiting period before the same space may be reserved again. The policy also establishes detailed operating standards, size limitation for carts, limitations where you can't have on-site food preparation, restricted hours of operation, setback requirements, requirements for the vendor to be present at all times, waste management, professional conduct, et cetera, et cetera. And the proposed policy aligns very closely with a number of other policies that I've seen with our research of what happens in other municipalities. The 2030 Building Brevard Comprehensive Land Use Plan calls for the city to, quote, support economic vitality and grow the tax base, cultivate local businesses, and attract sustainable industry, and to maintain and expand public parks and programming. The attached policy will support small businesses and enhance the usage of our public spaces. So we are asking that you take action on this tonight. You can approve the policy and the attached resolution. You can revise and then approve the policy and resolution, reject if you'd like, table the matter for future consideration. If you choose to adopt the policy, we also are asking that you adopt an ordinance that establishes a reservation fee for vendors on the city property. A draft ordinance is included with a $400 fee for reference. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Council, do we have a motion to approve the policy and adopt the ordinance with the fee?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay. We will start with Mr. Daniel.
No, I would like to clarify one thing is that, when we say the Brevard Sports Complex, we're talking about the soccer fields.
Correct.
Because in our discussions, we realize we do not want to compete with the Little League's concession stand.
Correct. The two locations for the sports complex are the soccer field and the skate park.
So I would like to clarify that. So the other thing is that I noticed that the size of the cart was 5 square feet. So that's 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet cart. Where did that number come from? That seems awfully small.
From other municipalities and what was currently in our ordinance when we started looking at it. We can increase that, but that's what other municipalities have used as well.
Okay. Trying to picture that in my head. It's a cart this big, kind of. So they're. Okay, I'll let it ride, but it seems awfully small.
Anything else, Mr. Daniel?
That's all.
Mr. Lidle?
No further questions.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I have a few questions. And first, I know that the committee has looked at this for a long time, so I'm hesitant to ask questions in a way that doesn't, at least acknowledge that I know a lot of work has already been put into this. But I'm curious about because it seems to me that you could permit the vendor versus permitting the site. And it seems like this is trying to mostly permit the site, but
Right. So
have some restrictions on what the
it's more
vendor.
of a reservation of city property,
Right.
not a permitted vendor.
Mm-hmm.
In the city, we do not permit like a food truck specifically. Those kind of things go to the public health department
Right.
with the county. And so we instead are not doing any of that. It's really reserving city property, a space on city property. So it's not so much, the vendor would be required to have insurance and do those kind of things, but it's really about it being on city property.
Right. I wonder, To me, it makes more sense to permit the vendors and on an annual basis, and then have the reservation system be a little bit easier to navigate than what we're looking at here. The $400 fee for a 30-day period, if you're a vendor that's definitely going to be serving all 30 days, that breaks down to like 13 or 14 bucks a day, so that's not prohibitive. But if you're really only planning to serve 4 or 5 days, which I think would be maybe the norm for this type of thing, if you're waiting for you're trying to schedule around larger events at the pool or the sports complex, well then, $400 is strikes me as pretty expensive if you're trying to make that money back before you're making any money at all. And I'm asking these from a place of really, I think we should be encouraging this type of thing, within reason, of course. And the within reason part of that statement is, the things we talked about in terms of liability insurance and things like that. And that leads me down the road of like, I think it would be better if we had an annual program of permitting vendors and their equipment, and then the reservation of certain sites is a little bit easier to navigate than what we're seeing here. Was that discussed at the committee level?
That was not discussed at the committee level. It was more around, would we like to allow vendors on city property, and if so, where and how? Not so much about the method for which we would do that. So it was, for example, we've had people request to be set up in Clemson Plaza, and we didn't have a policy for them to be able to do that because it is city property.
Yeah.
Some of those kind of requests were initiated. The $400 fee, Tyree's not here. I don't remember if, oh, you are. Reserving the full day at the depot is $375. So that was kind of where we got the where I plucked the $400 from, but that also was not discussed at the committee level, though there was mention that there should be a fee.
Yeah.
And then it is, some other cities have similar policies to what we've proposed here. There's sites that you can specifically reserve. Others have an annual fee, like what you said, but really allow you to vend in a specific area. They don't usually have both, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They don't usually have a site reservation and a vendor application. But that doesn't mean we can't do that.
Yeah, and the $400 doesn't, like, if that was an annual fee to be, allowed to be a vendor, this type of vendor within the city of Brevard, that doesn't, I think that might be about right. But $400 every time you're reserving a site, even if you're going to vend, we're saying you have that site for 30 days, but, you might not want to be out there every day of that 30. So I think a lot of the work that's already done here is good. I would just, I'd rather see us move in that other direction and maybe table this for a future meeting.
Understood?
The mayor just reminded me of something that we also discussed, which was that Silverstein Park wasn't included in the sites that I saw, and that is another public.
Silverstein Park was not in the list, was not discussed by the committee. When I was presenting ideas, we did not place anything directly next to a playground. So like the Franklin Pool site is specifically right by the entrance to Franklin Pool where there's a lot of activity, not by the playground. And so that was why I did not put Silverstein Park on there in the first place, but it could be certainly added if that's appropriate. Some of the requirements would be, when looking at sites, required to be at least 5 feet from the edge of a driveway or building entrance, at least 15 feet from a fire hydrant, and doesn't interfere with pedestrian or vehicular traffic. So there's certainly some great locations if Silverstein Park, if that's something that council wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a prime area for temporary vendors like this. And even if we wanted it to be somewhat separate from the playground, it could be in the parking area, potentially, or there's some other spots there that, there's a lot of public land over there, so.
Yeah, the one thing I'll just clarify is that this vendor would not be allowed to be there or wouldn't be part of any kind of event that happens there. So this would be separate from whenever there's a scheduled event in that area. So for like Juneteenth or anything like
Right.
that would be with the special event permit with Mary C. Jenkins. And would, any vendors associated with that would not be included, don't need to have this reservation.
Right. Okay, well, I want to be sure that my intentions are clear. I'm really glad we're doing this. I think it's important. I do think that, I don't think I can vote for it as it currently stands, and I would encourage us to table it and take a look at some of the issues that I brought up.
Mr. Wise?
I agree with Gary about the cart size. That feels very small. I do question, somewhat in line with Aaron, about the $400 fee for every 30 days. I just wonder if we might take a look at that, or maybe look at other municipalities and see how they've handled it. I really don't have any kind of comprehensive understanding of what a food cart can bring in, and a just in a regular summer month. So I don't have a good scale as to what that number means. So I was wondering if we could maybe just take another look at that. I also want to say, I remember we talked about Silverstein Park in committee. I just don't remember what we talked about. I see Wilson's hopefully nodding his head. But I can look at my notes too, because there was something specifically about Franklin Park as well and the playgrounds. So I just want to review that. So I'm kind of in favor with Aaron, as maybe we'd kind of take another look at this before we vote on it.
Councilmember, can I look at your notes too, please? Because I told the mayor this morning that I thought we talked about it as well, but I couldn't find a record of what it was.
Oh, boy.
So I'm wondering if I could.
That's me. I mean, notes. But yes, I will definitely
It
look.
may have just been that I mentioned this exact thing I just said. I can't remember.
I remember something about the playgrounds being, because I think in committee I had mentioned, why do we not put it at Franklin Park instead of the pool? So I'll look back over those notes.
All right, so who made the motion here?
I did.
That was, yes, Mr. Wise, seconded by Mr. Daniel.
So we have a motion to approve on the table. Do you want to modify your motion? Can he modify his motion, or do we need to vote on the motion, Mac?
I think he maybe can withdraw his motion. And if he withdraws his motion, then there's no motion from which to go forward.
And then he could make a motion to table
He
this.
could make a motion to table it.
Do you wish to withdraw your motion?
I do
Okay.
wish to withdraw my motion.
Who
I
was
will
the
second
second?
that.
Okay,
This is where the action is, guys.
all right.
And I'll make a motion that we table this for consideration at a future meeting.
Can we vote on
Well, I think we
Oh,
have
no,
to
he-
vote.
he-
Do we have to
no.
vote on the withdrawal?
No.
No, okay.
You don't have to vote on the
All
withdrawal.
right, so it's been withdrawn.
And
All
I
right.
would recommend that that motion not only include that, but also re-refer it back to the committee perhaps for further study.
Yeah, that was going to be my ask, is if you wanted it to just come back to this board or to a committee
Okay.
for discussion.
Then I'll make a motion that we table this and have it be reconsidered by the committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passes. All right, moving on to our next item of new business. We have the Minnie Brooks exemption for Brown Consultants for grant application assistance for our second intake at the water treatment plant, and our Assistant City Manager, David Todd, is going to present.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So what you have before you this evening is a resolution that staff is looking for that has really two separate requests on it. One of those requests is authorization to apply for a up to $10 million grant. And the second is asking for a Minnie Brooks exemption. So I can talk us through both of those quickly. First, on the Minnie Brooks exemption, North Carolina General Statute 143-6431 requires us to solicit for architectural and engineering firms to do work for the city. But there is also a second General Statute 143-6432 that authorizes local governments to exempt that interview process for projects less than $50,000. So we do have a proposal in hand for $18,000 to help us apply for this grant. And so that's the Minnie Brooks exemption request, is asking that we not have to interview firms and that we be allowed to select the firm. The firm that we are recommending is Brown Consultants, PA. It's Jeffrey Brown. We are recommending that firm because they are the current firm involved at the water treatment plant project right now, $5 million project that we are working on. And they previously were involved in the two other intake attempts that were attempted at the water plant, and I'll talk about those next. So that's the first item, is the Minnie Brooks exemption. The second item, just a quick, and this is really straight from the staff report, but somewhere around 2008, a tree went down in Cathy's Creek that serves the water treatment plant. That tree plugged the water intake, and it led to basically an emergency to get the tree out so that we could get water into the plant and keep making water to send to the city. As a result of that, a second intake upstream of the current intake was installed. But it was very prone to plugging and debris and had lots of different issues, did not function well. So somewhere around 2020, a second intake was put in that was designed to better prevent blockage and stay open and allow water to flow more freely. It wasn't perfect, but in its 8 months of operation, it did okay until Tropical Storm Fred came through. Tropical Storm Fred, as a part of that second water intake, they had also done a stream bank restoration project. Lots of plantings, and the stream banks were reworked to lessen erosion. But the strength of Tropical Storm Fred caused a tremendous amount of erosion, and it washed out in the creek. We had built kind of a horseshoe-shaped structure to help provide water to these intakes. It wiped out that horseshoe-shaped structure and then completely covered the intakes under, we're guessing, Dennis, probably 3 feet of rocks and gravel over those intakes. So it's not as simple as just going back and saying, hey, let's dig those intakes out. It's much more complex than that. But since that time, we've kind of been running at risk. And in fact, during Hurricane Helene, the one and only intake we have to the water plant right now, we have, if you've been to the water plant, I think everybody has, there's a dam where the water hits the dam and kind of puddles up and then comes into the plant. That area behind that dam has to be excavated down or have enough room for water to flow in and come through the intake. In Hurricane Helene, enough debris and material flowed down, it came in and filled the creek up level with the top of the dam, which forced the creek to go over the dam and rise significantly. Thankfully, that rise in water level allowed it to kind of flow over and still provide our intake with water. As that water started dropping, and if we had allowed it to drop, we would have lost water intake to the water treatment plant. So Dennis, in the heat of the night on either day 1 or day 2 after the storm, not not very shortly thereafter, mobilized a contractor to come out and we have a standing permit with the North Carolina, or not with the North Carolina, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to be able to do emergency work. So he came in on an emergency basis, removed all of that material in front of the dam and allowed the treatment plant to keep operating. So what we are proposing is that we put in a new intake, that we look a little further upstream. We put it in such a fashion that if we were to have another storm, it would be less likely to plug or get filled, because we would put it on the higher velocity side of the creek versus the low velocity side of the creek, which is where the current structures have been. So we believe it would be less prone to plugging. So that's what the grant is about. Now this grant, you've heard us speak about this grant before. We've come to you previously about this. This is North Carolina State Revolving Fund. It's not a grant. It's the North Carolina State Revolving Loan. And this loan was put in place in part because of the damage caused by Hurricane Helene. And what North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has done is they have made available $10 million for drinking water infrastructure projects and $5 million for wastewater infrastructure projects. So we came to you previously and asked for permission to apply for the $5 million to apply towards our wastewater treatment plant, which we have done. And by all accounts, I believe I'm going to be coming back to you in a soon city council meeting telling you that we have been successful in that meeting. We've seen the informal results, and it looks like we've been successful. This $10 million grant is on a revolving deadline, but the most recent or approaching deadline is January 9th, which is very, very close, which is one of the reasons that we need help and assistance in applying for this grant, and one of the reasons we need somebody that is very familiar with the project and what we're doing to be able to help us work on this grant. So that's why, again, we're asking for the Minnie Brooks exemption with Jeffrey Brown. That's the extent of my report. I'm glad to try to answer any questions you folks may have.
All right, so we are looking for action on this tonight. So I am looking, do I have a motion to approve the resolution for the water treatment plant Minnie Brooks exemption, and also for the Brown Consultants proposal for professional engineering services?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Lytle.
Good. I think anything that we can do, I know that we don't want to hold up grant, and it looks like we have about a couple hours here before you have to apply. So all for it, and you guys do a good job out there. Thanks.
Thank you. Just one clarification to
Yes.
that. It is a revolving period.
Window,
so there
right,
will be
the next window.
potentially another opportunity to apply if they don't award all the grant funds. So we could wait, but we go at some risk. Thank you.
Yeah, waiting is good when you need to. In this case, I don't think we need to.
Mr. Daniel.
Well, obviously, being able to provide clean water, fresh every day, is a priority. And I think we should move forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Baker.
Yeah, first I want to say just thank you to Dennis and all the public works staff. It's a point of pride, I think, that we were able to keep the water flowing during some pretty serious natural disasters, and that was not because there wasn't risk. There was a lot of risk, and it took a lot of hard work and dedication to mitigate that risk and keep the clean water flowing. So, thank you. Just one question when you brought up some of the effects of Tropical Storm Fred. I know that FEMA has been a hot topic more recently with Hurricane Helene. But I'm curious if any of this sort of damage or some of the issues that we've had at the water plant, whether FEMA has, whether we've contacted FEMA about that and just what the history is there, and that you may not have that answer right now, but just curious.
No, yes, sir. I believe I can answer it. So we did have several things occur at the plant as a result of Hurricane Helene. One is the water intake being plugged that I mentioned. It also brought enough sand and silt and debris to plug. What's the proper name for the structure that we had cleaned out? Raw water wet well. He had to think at least for a second. So I didn't have it off the tip of my tongue. The raw water wet well, which is basically a big square box, the very first thing that we would call part of the plant, was filled with, Dennis, what do you think it was, 2 to 4 feet of sand in that wet well, something like that? A lot of sand. So we also, on an emergency basis, brought in a company with basically a vacuum truck. They got in and cleaned out the wet well. We had some severe erosion just past the intake. The Forest Service had built a large retaining wall on the creek bank, big, massive boulders. That failed in a couple of places. It has since been repaired by the Forest Service. And then downstream from that, we had further bank erosion where lots of riprap and stuff on the bank came off and into the river. So the very first money that we were awarded from FEMA for Hurricane Helene was for our water treatment plant. It was in the Wilson, $25,000, and it was to cover. Now, I get a little confused because the debris removal out of the wet well bounced between. FEMA has a couple of categories. One was things we did at the water treatment plant, and one was debris removal. And I honestly do not remember for sure which category we put that debris removal in without going back and looking. But FEMA gave us $24,000 to cover, or let me repeat that, or say it again. They paid us back to dig out the debris in front of the dam and to clean the wet well out. They also gave us the $24,000 to repair the bank erosion at the bridge. So so far they've taken care of just about everything that we have put forward. We did also seek an insurance claim on that, but the way our insurance works is it does not cover anything that is within a designated floodplain. And basically the water treatment plant, the majority of it kind of falls within the floodplain. At the wastewater treatment plant, I'm going beyond what you asked, but at the wastewater treatment plant, part of that facility that got a bunch of debris, the RBCs, was outside of the floodplain, and we did receive an insurance settlement there, and FEMA is going to help us, we believe, cover the difference between what we paid and the insurance cost. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and my question was more about Tropical Storm Fred, going back to that event and whether FEMA,
I'll let Dennis speak to that. It's before my time.
Yeah, when that happened, that intake, it was in the creek upstream and just got killed. There wasn't we didn't really have a team of city people working with that FEMA. It was Dennis. I met with them, had calls with them every week for like 6 or 7 months. I gave them everything they could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
They asked for this, and I did it for them. They wanted this, I got it to them. Make a long story short, at the end of this time, they did offer us some money. It was about a third of the amount of money I needed to even get the contractor to mobilize.
Yeah.
And I told them, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not so sweet. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
They didn't offer us enough to even get equipment out there to start working.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just didn't go good. On Helene, we've had some issues on some things.
Right.
Sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah. They certainly don't make it easy.
if I can add off of that, and Wilson, I hope I don't steal your thunder, any later thunder, but we have been very successful this time around on some requests with Helene, and most recently, we've gotten 3 checks in hand: a $24,000 check at the water treatment plant, a $5,000 check for some sinkhole repair. What was the most recent check? 235,000 or something like that for debris removal. There's another check in the works that we expect any time for about 350,000. So we'll get a little bit of money this time from Helene, but it has taken a tremendous amount of legwork.
Thank you. Just one more thing, and this is more of a big picture, longer term. Obviously, this is a positive thing that we should move forward with for the water treatment plant. But just as a community, outside of just the city limits, I know Rosman is working with the county on their and the state on their potentially new water treatment plant. We now have the interconnect with Rosman, and it seems as though there's just a lot more attention being paid to, utilities by our friends at the county, and I know at the state level, regionalization and partnering up is certainly something that they're trying to encourage. So as we move forward into budget season and as we're working with our partners at the county, I think if that is the trend that we're moving toward, that we need to be sure that we're, continuing to engage with the county and even, with the town of Rosman on what our water treatment plans are for the future, and make sure that we're not duplicating efforts where we don't need to, and if there are opportunities where we can partner up and actually work together, without giving up our the interests of the people who live in the city of Brevard. I think we should do that. So
We have met with the mayor of Rosman, Brian Shelton. Is that his correct
his
last
name,
name?
yeah.
We have met with Brian a couple of times already, and we did most recently complete the interconnect between our water system and their water system. That's in place. One comment I would make about that, and Dennis, you got to help me with this, but anything that Rosman does to get water comes out of the French Broad below where somebody is already discharging wastewater into that section, right?
If they get it off the French Broad, they would be below Mitchell Bissell's discharge, which they have some sort of discharge. If they get it off the North Fork, which is going at 215, kind of, if they put in an intake above headwaters, you could have some fish farms upstream. And I don't know what else. You would have quite a bit of residential area above it.
My point with that is Kathy's Creek is about as clean a water as you can get. And that's just something we would always want to keep in mind. We have a really, really nice and rare drinking water source, especially just barely downstream of us. Hendersonville, our wastewater treatment plant discharges into the French Broad, which Hendersonville and Asheville both take water from. And that continues on downstream. And we are at the top of the, I'm not aware, if there's anything, there may be some minor, I don't think there's anything that goes in that I'm aware of in Kathy's Creek, but I don't want to tell you that with 100% sure, but it's very, very clean water.
There's one little trout pond at Ziegler. It's been in and on and off. I don't know if it's working right now or not. Russell thinks it's not. Just a handful of residents upstream.
But point taken, and we will definitely continue to be sure we're in collaboration with them and talking with them. The mayor and myself and Wilson have met with Brian as well to talk about that.
great. Thank you. That's all.
Mr. Weiss?
No questions.
All right, did I get everybody? I've lost track. I think everyone's, yeah, I did. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, and that is the end of new business, and we are on remarks. All right, well, we will start with our newest city council member, Mr. Lytle.
Sorry to disappoint, but I don't have any, no more remarks. Thanks.
Mr. Daniel.
Well, I do hope that this year is going to be a very positive year for the city of Brevard and all of the people that live here and the county as well. So I'm looking forward to a more hopeful year. Thank you.
Mr. Wise.
Yeah, I want to wish everyone a happy new year and apparently happy bird day, which is a new one to me, but that's exciting. I hope everyone had a lovely break, if you took a break. It's funny that Mr. Powell brought the Constitution. I also brought a copy of the Constitution with me. And I would encourage, I think everyone in this room is pretty familiar with this document, but I would encourage you to tell your friends to read it. This is not an a la carte menu that we can pick and choose from if we like some things or don't like some things. This is the Constitution of the United States, and it is not being upheld. So make some noise about that. That's a very serious problem in our country right now. I don't want to bring it all down. So Happy New Year again.
Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I just want to say welcome to Chief Wenzel and your family. When we talked earlier today, I said that, I grew up a preacher's kid, so we moved a bunch. And one of those moves, I think I moved like 4 or 5 times before I was 18 years old. And one of those moves was in the middle of the school year. And so I know that can be tricky and difficult. So we're thinking about your family, and hopefully, I know Brevard and all of our kids, most of our kids, are incredibly welcoming, and I hope they settle right in. So, and I don't want to steal the manager's thunder, but we have another person to welcome, a new assistant to the city manager, and I'll let him do that. So, that's all.
Wilson's not got anything left to do.
All right, Mr. Attorney.
Well, I'm certainly not going to get crossways with Wilson, so I'll just remind you, we do have what I hope is a fairly brief closed session.
Madam Clerk.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Councilmember Baker said it. We have another new staff person, Shawnee Cummings, if you wouldn't mind waving. She's the new assistant to the city manager, replacing Selena. And she'll be working mostly to facilitate the work of council year committees. And so you'll start getting texts from her asking about committee agendas and schedules and so forth. But she'll also be helping me and Denise with some other management projects around budget season and some other of those types of things. But her most visible task will be the committee work. She's got a master's degree from Duke University, so an impressive academic resume, and some good professional experiences that I think are pretty transferable to the work that she's going to do with us. And we are happy to have her, so welcome, Shawnee. That's all I have.
Okay, just a couple of things. I also am looking forward to 2026. I think it's going to be a great year. We've got a lot of big plans. You can sort of see it. We're wrestling with some of those major issues already on the very first meeting, the water plant and the redundancy of the water intake, something that as we continue to develop and look at our disaster preparedness plans, our resiliency as a community, these are some of the things that we are tackling, as your elected leaders. And so I'm really glad that staff came up with this grant, because so many of these require outside funding. So again, just great initiative on the staff in terms of moving forward with that. Great initiative on getting our Pisgah Gateway moving and actually applying some of the standards that we worked so hard over the last 18 months to put into place. All of this is really how we grow as a city, how we look to that future, how we shape our city based on what the the public tells us, what the input is to us. So I'm just very optimistic about where we are heading. It's going to be a lot of work. We have a lot of big meetings coming up in the spring, and I encourage people, don't just come to our public hearings or our 3 minutes of public speaking. We have our strategic planning workshop going to be held. That's open to the public to listen. We also have our budget workshop open to the public to listen, and of course a public hearing later in the spring. But these are all opportunities for the public as we start this new calendar year to really give us feedback, because we're here to represent you. And so take advantage of many of these forums that are out there. And I will also say that this Thursday is my very first Meet the Mayor of 2026, which is 11:30 to 1 at the Mary C. Jenkins. And so as you have every month, you have the opportunity to just come and have an informal conversation with the mayor. I do want to remind people that our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 20th, not Monday, the 19th. On Monday, we have Martin Luther King Day, and we have our celebration. In fact, we have several things happening that weekend. And let's see if I can remember them all. Saturday, the Mary C. Jenkins board is sponsoring an event at Mary C. Jenkins, Saturday, 12 to 2, and it's free. Yep, Tyree's given me the, it's free. You don't need, do you need reservations, Tyree? No, you're, okay. Yeah, I thought somebody else might bring all this up, so I didn't have my notes. So it's free. So that's Saturday. There's going to be a speaker, and just great way to remember and honor Dr. King. And then on Monday, we have an event. There is going to be a march from the courthouse down to Bethel A. I believe the march starts at 5:30. Is anybody here? Did I get that one? Okay. That's actually starting to march, so you need to be at the courthouse like by 5:15 to get organized, listen to all the directions from the marshals so that we maintain safety in our marching. And we will march down to Bethel A, and then at Bethel A, we will have a ceremony that day, actually on Martin Luther King holiday, with a number of speakers that starts at 6:30. And for those marching down, I believe there's going to be like coffee and hot chocolate or something to help us recover from that lengthy march before we start the actual ceremony at 6:30. So as always, we will be celebrating Martin Luther King, great American. We will be celebrating the vision, all of the wonderful things that he stood for, which are right in line with what our country stands for, and celebrating the diversity that makes our community so strong and is so important that we never lose sight of. So I encourage you to join us for our Martin Luther King celebrations, and then on Tuesday evening, come back to our next city council meeting. And I think with that, it is time to have a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are in closed session. Please clear the room and please stop the broadcast.